Hello, everybody, and welcome to your channel Thermal Engineering Concept and Principle. This is Professor Ali Tarrad. In this episode and series of different videos, we will talk about an application in the field of thermal engineering, which is the most important application in our heat transfer topic. What are the structural components of shell and tube bundle, heat exchangers, and how do they work? In this series, we will talk about this type of heat exchangers and how can we predict the thermal design of such heat exchangers. Hello, everyone, and welcome again. We will talk in a field that is very important and crucial in thermal engineering. And where can we apply the concept of thermal engineering? And one of these topics is the thermal design of heat exchangers. How can we predict the size of heat exchangers? In this part, we will talk about the structure of shell and tube heat exchanger and what are the most important components of such heat exchangers. Thank you for your support, and I hope that the channel can provide important information and helpful to you and others in the field of thermal engineering. Let us go to the detailed description of this episode. The main objectives of the present episode are heat exchanger types, heat exchanger design requirements. What are the most important factors to be available or considered before commencing the design of heat exchanger? Then we will go to the shell and tube heat exchanger structure and we will describe the main components of such heat exchangers. And finally, we will arrive to the summary of the content of the present episode. Let us mention some of the applications for convection in engineering and technology. Heat exchangers, which have been mentioned before, they are used in most of the industrial applications. And we have passed through these equipment, shell and tube heat exchanger, a plate and frame heat exchanger, air-cooled heat exchanger, and the one which the simple heat exchanger was the double pipe heat exchanger. And these equipment, the heat transfer mode is convection heat transfer among other modes, especially the conduction as well. So If you have a look at the heat exchanger, the double pipe is a simple one, and it is composed of two tubes, one inside the other, and then the flow either in the annulus or the inner tube, and heat transfer is occurred. So these equipment have the convection heat transfer. What are the requirements to be considered before commencing the thermal design of heat exchangers? The first point is to make a decision about the choice of heat exchanger type, and it could be any one of these or other types such as the immersion coil one, which has been described in the previous episodes. You may find that on our channel. Then we have to know and get the operating conditions of fluids that are passing through the heat exchanger. The process fluid, where it represents the fluid which should be considered uh, in the process, chemical process, refinery, chemical site, or petrochemical industry, or in power plants. And the process fluid uh, could be any of the chemical fluids. Uh, and we have service fluid, which um, can be considered as a, a fluid which transfers heat or energy to the external equipment. These external equipment could be boiler or which provides hot water or steam, or it could be cooling tower or chilled chiller to provide chilled water for cooling purposes. And these can be specified as entering and leaving temperature and the mass flow rate of the circulated fluid. Then we have the heat transfer rate should be considered or should be taken into account before selecting even the type of heat exchanger. Then where can we locate these fluids, the process fluid and the service fluid on both sides of the heat exchanger? And there are many factors which are affecting such issue where can uh, uh, can be found in different sources, which will be described at the end of this video. You may find them in a link, of course, for these references. Then allowable pressure losses of both fluids through the heat exchanger, because that will be reflected as a power on the pump, which should be used to circulate these fluids. And then what are the expecting fouling resistances on both sides, because we have usually during operation there could be another factor which is added to the thermal resistance of the heat exchanger and should be considered. And then the available space for orientation objectives. It could be uh, vertical heat exchanger, an inclined heat exchanger, or horizontal heat exchanger. So usually it depends on the available space in that site within the unit. So, and finally, the objective of our design is to find the surface area of the heat exchanger, which is reflected on the size of heat exchanger cost, and the economic feasibility of using that heat exchanger. One of the main components of this type of heat exchangers is the tube sheet and the tube bundle. In this photo, we may see that there is a tube sheet, and the tube sheet, in fact, is a piece of metal perforated with holes, and these holes usually are corresponding to the number of tubes of the heat exchanger, and usually the tubes are connected to this tube sheet by soldering, and on both sides there could be tube sheets on the left hand side and the right hand side of the heat exchanger. The tubes inside the heat exchanger are corresponding to a shape just like the bundle as shown in this photo, and the tube sheet contains the number of holes which are corresponding to the number of tubes in that heat exchanger, and usually these holes are prepared in the form of a number of tube passes of the heat exchanger. So we have tube side fluid that enters through the tubes, and we have on the shell side another fluid. Of course, the objective of these streams are either to heat or cool a process fluid. So one of the fluids usually is called um, service fluid, and the other one is called the process fluid. For example, if we have an operation in industrial field in a hydraulic system, for example, to cool down oil, then the oil will be the process fluid, and it could be cooled by passing water. And the cooling water is called the service fluid, and the cold water could be obtained from the cooling tower. So in this photo, we may see a bundle of tubes, and they are supported by baffles, a baffle. And these baffles are structure material made of a metal that can hold these tubes together inside the heat exchanger. And it could be clear in this photo. For example, this is a sort or a part of heat exchanger from the shell type, shell and the tube type. And on the shell side, there was oil which passed through this heat exchanger, and the tubes are shown, and these tubes are supported by the presence of baffles. U-tube arrangement. The tubes of the heat exchanger could be manufactured in the form of a U-tube. For example, here we have the tube sheet perforated with a number of holes which are corresponding to the tubes. And on the right hand side, we have the other end of these tubes in the form of U. And the tubes are fitted in the tube sheet as shown in this part, the middle part, and the fluid passes through these tubes to the end and return in a U shape to the same end of the uh, tube sheet. That means in the U-tube arrangement, you may have the fluid to in and out at the same direction of the heat exchanger. In general, this is the shape of the tube, and they are manufactured prior to the operation of manufacturing the heat exchanger. And now let us talk about the baffles in the shell and the tube heat exchangers. In this photo is obvious that a bundle of tube is supported by these baffles as shown, and there are many advantages from the use of these baffles and heat exchangers, of course. And the most common type of baffles is shown in this the blue photo that we have um, plate with a specified thickness, and it is perforated with these holes, which allows passing of tubes. And the advantages of the existence of these baffles in heat exchangers, they control the heat transfer coefficient on the shell side and control the pressure drop as well on the shell side. So these two parameters, important parameters in the design of heat exchangers, um, can be controlled by the controlling the distance between these baffles. Minimizing the distance, it means that we are increasing the velocity on the shell side, and in that way we are increasing Reynolds number and improving the heat transfer coefficient. On the contrary, that will increase the pressure losses in heat exchanger. So usually these two parameters should arrive at a compromise, because the pressure drop is counted for the uh, power required to run the pumps, and this heat exchanger is only part of a big layout and the network of these piping systems, valves, and other equipment. So we should minimize the pressure losses inside the heat exchanger. The other advantage that the presence of these baffles will create a true process flow on the shell side with fluid that passes through the tubes. And finally, they provide a mechanical support to the tubes. Uh, so we can keep them in a straight way, uh, and at the same time strengthen the structure of heat exchanger. And usually these baffles have a cut, and it is stated by a TIMA standard to range between 15 to 45% of the inner shell diameter. And then I will explain what is TIMA standard in the next slide. The baffle types which are used in manufacturing of shell and tube heat exchangers. The first type is called the single segmental, which is the most common type of baffles. And we can see in this animated diagram that the fluid on the shell side enters the shell from the left-hand side and passes crossing the distance of the heat exchanger through these baffles as shown, and that will make a perpendicular flow between the shell and the tube side. And these baffles can be made of a plate with a specified thickness. Of course, these thicknesses of baffles of the tube sheet and tubes usually is controlled by TEMA standard. And these baffles have a circular shape with cut, and the common cut is around 25% of the inner diameter of the shell. The second type is the double segmental type. In this type, we have three pieces, one which is a central, and the others are uh, fixed on the inner uh, diameter of the shell. If we look at the left-hand side shape, that the two pieces are fixed up and down, and between them the flow. And then we have the main central part is fixed. Then the flow will be divided into directions, and then we have a sequence of these uh, baffles as shown in this figure. Of course, this type is used to minimize the shell side velocity, which is reflected in minimizing the pressure drop. So this is a solution or another option to minimize the pressure drop as well. We have the third type, which is the disc and dove knot. As shown, is again we have two parts. A small part which is fixed at the middle, and then we have the other one which is fixed on the inner side of diameter of the shell, which allows the passage of these tubes. Of course, these are the popular shapes and types of baffles which are used in manufacturing heat exchangers. And finally, we have arrived to the summary of the present video. We passed through the heat exchanger design and how can we describe the heat exchanger, its structure and types. We also passed through the requirements uh, to be taken into account before commencing the design process. And finally, we passed through the description of heat exchanger structure, especially for the shell and tube heat exchanger. Of course, we have a link where we can find some references to be considered for this topic. And finally, I would like to thank you for your continuous support. And if you found that this information is useful to you and others, please share the video and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next part of uh, the episodes related to this topic. Bye bye.